Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox, and I am here sharing a Halloween card. I love Halloween, so we're going to have a little fun today. I'm going to start out showing you what I'm using. I'm using a 2.5-inch circle die, and then this is where the witch came from. This is my favorite things, a sweet little spell, and then the matching die that goes with it. She is so adorable. And then their new haunted house, which is called Spooky House, and has a bat with it. I'll use both of those. And then I'm going to use the tree in the last year's haunted house. And then for the papers I'm using, I'm going to use a piece of Bristol paper. I'm going to be doing some ink blending, and I love to use that with Bristol paper with that because it blends so nicely. I put a B on the back just to make sure I know which ones is Bristol. And then it fits right inside this A2 black cardstock panel. Then I have some white cardstock and a piece of a purple piece and scrap of black, and then some green, and then some masking paper because we're going to be making a mask for the moon. So to get started, I'm using the little scrap of black, and I'm going to cut out the bat and the house, the haunted house. For the purple, I'm going to just cut out the tree. And I know that may seem strange, but you'll see what I mean. And then I'm going to use the die for the witch because I want to be able to stamp that, use my stamp positioner. But first, let's punch out all of these windows. There's a bunch in this, but it gives it so much character. And then there's the tree there as well. And so I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to start with the witch. I've put a little bit of repositionable tape on the back, that negative space, and then put a tiny bit on the back of the witch just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to take that stamp and I'm going to lay it over it and position it so I get a perfect position, and stamp it with a Copic friendly ink. This happens to be my favorite things, Extreme Hybrid, but there are many inks out there that are good for alcohol markers. I am coloring her with alcohol markers, and I'm going to list the ones that as I go along. You'll see there's a list here. I'm starting out with the light colors, the BV00, and then I'm going to go right to the dark, which is the BV25. And then you can see there's those two others that are in between color, but I'm going to put kind of those little dark areas, the shadow areas, in, and then I'll start filling it in. Here I'm filling it in with the V25. And I'll just continue to work this wonderful kind of flowy witch's outfit that she has on that's so cute, to really make her this adorable witch with a purple dress on and a purple hat. I will also do that in the purple as well. But you can see I'm just wanting to preserve some of these lighter areas for highlights and the darker areas for the shadow, and using these Copic markers back and forth to just get the kind of shading that I'm looking for. But the darkest color, like I said, was the BV25, and then the lightest is the BV00. You can see that I filled in that frog that's on her hat with a green, quite a vibrant green. And now I'm going to color the hat exactly the same colors as I did her dress. And I'm doing the same thing where I'm leaving some light areas and then using the dark color, that BV25, and putting in the shadow. And then the V25 and the other color, kind of the ones that kind of just smooth everything out and give it a little bit more richness to it. I'm just going to go over this a little bit more just to make sure that I have it all smoothed out. And now I'm going to go on to her shoes. I'm using the W warm tones for this, and you can see there's a lot of colors there. but I mainly just use those for shading. I start out with the the W0, and then go on. You could probably eliminate the 00 and go right to the W1, and then I'm using the darker colors for the shading of her little shoes. And now going on to her broom, using some yellow and browns, just like a good witch's broom should be. And then next we'll go, I forgot to do her face. So I'm going to go on to do that. I love the combination of the E00 with the E21, because it gives it, the E21 gives it some nice shadowing. And the R30 for her little cheeks is adorable. Just gives her, it blends nicely, and it just gives her some nice kind of rosy cheeks. And then going on to her hair, I'm using some yellows and a little bit of the brown. And I'm leaving some highlight areas. And you'll see that I'm leaving those completely white. There's not very many of them, but it just gives her hair a little bit more interest. And then she has these little, holding her long pigtails, are the little rubber bands. And I've colored those green, that same YG07 for that. And then going on to the cat, I'm going with the traditional black cat on this one. So I'm using some C1 and 2, 5, 7, and then R34 in his ears, and just a little bit of a rosy cheek there. And now I'm going to take a white gel pen and add some highlights. Just in case I didn't leave enough of them, this just gives it a little extra. And you maybe don't see it so much in the camera, but you can really see it in person. This is some new stuff from Sizzix. It's wonderful. It's pearlescent, and I just put a tiny bit on there, and I've mixed it with some water, and I have just a kind of a throwaway brush there, and I'm just putting it in areas that I want a little bit of shimmer. And it just goes on so nicely. You could also put this in a spray bottle and spritz it if you're using it for a background or something like that. It's really quite wonderful. And it comes in a big jar. You get oodles with it. But she's all done, so I'm going to set her aside, and I'm going to use another new product. This I am in love with. It is Metalex, I guess is what you call it. It's black. It's from Deco Foil. It has a wonderful kind of creamy, very interesting texture to it, and it goes on really nicely. And I love that it gives it a little bit of sheen, but also it'll have a little bit of stick. So I'm taking some black glitter, and I'm just going to, I'm not making it all glitter, but just giving some little glitter highlights on it. And I've decided to do the bat the exact same way. You don't have to use very much of this, but I just love this Metalex. That's a brand new product for them. And now I'm going to go on to the tree. This was my purple tree. I'm going to make it even more purple with Seedless Preserve. And then I'll add little highlights of black soot, so that, especially down at the base and a little bit on the branches. And I leave it in its holder, in its negative space, just so that those branches don't get all bent up. And then I've decided, well, maybe I need a fence. And this is the Spooky Fence by My Favorite Things. This came out last year, and I'm adding the Seedless Preserve just like I did before, and then I'll add little highlights of black soot. I really like the purple and the black together. I think it works out very nicely. So I have all those pieces all together, and I'm going to set those aside. And I've cut out a circle out of my mask paper using that 2.5 inch circle die. And this is mask paper that I've applied there. That's going to be my big full moon. And you can check out, by the way, all these supplies. There's a link down below. You can check out all the supplies. I have a complete list. But I'm going to start blending on. First, this is crushed olive. And I'm going to to blend this on to the bottom area and kind of reaching up towards the moon. And then forest moss at the bottom to darken it. And then now for the sky part, I'm going to use chipped sapphire and black soot. I've now changed because I have so much ink on this paper. I have a post-it note so that I can hold on to it without my fingerprints getting all over it. I don't get inky and it doesn't leave fingerprints on it. But I have now all of the blue and a little bit of the black on there. I'm peeling off the mask and that reveals my wonderful moon. I'm going to take a little bit of the wild honey and I'm using just a really tiny blending brush here. And I'm just going to add some highlights going around the moon and a little bit of that blue until I get kind of that really eerie moon look to my scene. Now I'm going to take another piece of that green and I'm going to use this. It happens to be Lawn Fawn's grassy hillsides, but you can use any one that you happen to have. It's just a little strip that I'm putting those, that I've created the grass. I'm going to put crushed olive all over this. And then down at the bottom, I'll add some of the forest moss, same colors that I was using before. And I'll show you what I'm going to be doing with this. It's going to go down at the bottom, but instead of my card opening up the traditional way, I've decided to do it this way, and you'll see as it unfolds. So make sure that your piece of green is longer than the width of your panel. I'm going to score it right on the edge there, and then I'll score it on the other side. With a score on each side now, it creates these little flaps that I can fold over to the back side. And then now I'm going to measure right and find the center of this. So got my white pencil and I'm going to mark the center of that panel, of the width of the panel, because I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to cut right in the center. So I cut it right in half. So now you'll see these two pieces act as kind of little doors. That's going to be my how my card is going to open. I'm going to use one of the sentiments. There's a few sentiments in this stamp set, but I'm going to be using What's Up Witches. I think that's a really fun one. And then I'll get ready to stamp this. And I'm inking it with VersaFine black ink and stamp that sentiment right in the center. Now I'm going to, on the back side of these little grassy areas that I made, I am putting a little bit of that crushed olive because when you open it up, you're going to notice the color and you want to have it match. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each one of those little tabs and I'm going to glue it down. So that's how my card is going to open, and it kind of conceals that sentiment. Now I'm going to bring back all those pieces that we made, and I'm going to start assembling the card. This is my very favorite part, when everything comes together and you can start to really set your scene. And I'm kind of getting an idea right now where everything's going to go, because I've decided I've been totally entranced with Sandy Allnuck's. If you saw her, it was a couple of, maybe last week or a week and a half ago, where you saw where she did these wonderful starry sky, kind of this galaxy of stars. And I'm very entranced with this. So I'm taking a white pen and I'm just making little dots all the way around this little swoosh of my galaxy. And in the center there, I'm really going to make that quite wide. And so some of those dots are going to be bigger and some smaller, and going to be quite concentrated there in the center. And create this wonderful swoosh of of stars, and I'm adding some of the little more pronounced stars here and there. And I hope you can get the detail from this, but this is just done with a white gel pen. And now that that's done, I'm going to now put all my pieces together. And I really like that swoosh, how it's kind of there in the background. And we'll put the tree on the front flap, and I'll put the witch on the front flap. Now you'll notice that when I turned it over, you can see all my Copic coloring. And I decided, and you'll see this later, how I dealt with that. But for right now, I'm just doing some touch-ups, and I'm going to put the fence in there. I decided that I really needed maybe some little pumpkins. So I had some pumpkins left over from one of my projects. These pumpkins actually came from the Penny Black Autumn entrance, but that's the stamp set, that's what it's called. And I had these little pumpkins, but you can find whatever pumpkins you happen to have around. They just kind of brighten it up, so you just have this complete scene. And I'm just thrilled with it. But I'm going to put some tape on the back of this, and I'm going to mount it with that black. This is an A2 black panel, and that's just going to be the back of my card. So it just finishes everything off so nicely. Now see, it opens. And see how the witch, I colored the witch black. I just took some of that blended on some black soot onto the back, and I think that worked out very nicely. So here you can get a closer look of how wonderful she is. She is just so sweet. And then with that galaxy of stars and the bat, and I'm in love with Halloween, and I think it's because you can create wonderful scenes, use dramatic colors, and you can just have all these special effects, and they all come together. Nothing's over the top when it comes to Halloween. So it makes it really, really, really special. And I just love that. And I hope that you did too. And if you did, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, we would be over the moon. If you would, over the full moon, I should say, if you would subscribe. And then to just let you know of the items that we used, just to kind of recap, we used My Favorite Things Sweet Little Spell stamp and die set, My Favorite Things Spooky House and the Spooky Fence, and last year's Haunted House, and then a bunch of Copic markers. But like I say, everything, the papers, everything that I used is on this in the supply list. You just click the link down below, it'll take you right to the supply list, and you can check out everything. Plus you will be able to see more close-ups, and there will be oodles more inspiration. So I hope you will join us there as well. I want to thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope you will be with us next time. Thanks so much. Bye.